What's up, everybody? This is the Ike Inspirations podcast, and today I have a great guest named Jaryd. And Jaryd is an online business investor, and I have the pleasure of speaking to him. I don't really come across a lot of people who invest online in businesses and purchase online businesses, so I'm curious to hear about his story and how he got into it and all the wisdom and knowledge he has to share in regards to that business. So thank you for coming on, Jaryd. Can you please do us a favor of introducing yourself to the audience and explaining who you are and what you do and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on, Ike. I'm honored, honestly. Thank you so much. So a bit about me. I'm from down under. I'm from Australia, and I used to be a plumber. Didn't quite have the skills or the academia to be able to go to college or university is what we call it in Australia. So I became a plumber and just hated it. And so I kept quitting and tried to work out how I could travel. So I saved up money, quit my job, and I'd travel. And then after about 4 or 5 years of traveling, I realized I don't want to go back home broke again to become a plumber. I need to work out how I can make money online. And this was in 2012. I literally typed into Google how to travel the world and make money online. And I started 2 businesses. I failed those 2 businesses because I didn't know anything about sales and marketing. And then I realized 90% of all startups fail. And I thought, if 90% of startups fail, why don't I just see if I can pass that 90% failure rate by buying a business that has passed that 90% failure rate and just operate it and be an operator. So I taught myself, there was nobody really teaching people how to acquire internet businesses, websites, e-commerce brands. So I taught myself how to buy an online business. And I bought my first one in 2014. And then I bought 3 small businesses in 3 years from that stage. And then I was able to quit my job and travel. And people on my trips were asking me to speak on stage, asked me to teach them. And then I created a course and started teaching people how to acquire online businesses. And then I started, once people bought them, they're like, how do we grow them? So I help people start growing their businesses. And so, I built a community of people that, the world's largest community of people buying online businesses for education for that. And I'm an M&A advisor. So for 7-figure plus deals, I acquire businesses myself and my team. We just acquire businesses for people and then scale them.
Wow. So I came across your YouTube channel where you talk about the act of purchasing online businesses and you educate your audience on how to do so. And, I came across a lot of valuable information, and I've yet to really dabble into the world of online business investing, but I'm really interested in it. And so for those who are curious like me, what does that process look like of purchasing an online business?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first you need to work out how much funds you have, what's your capital, and then you need to decide what your acquisition strategy is, your acquisition criteria. And that'll be based on what capital you have or if you want to use financing. And once you have that acquisition criteria, then you go to the market and look for those businesses to sell. And then once you find the ones that are within that criteria, then you, depending on the size of the business, if it's something that's sort of under the 500K range, you can just typically sign a non-disclosure agreement and then start doing due diligence. So gathering all the data you need and researching that to see if it's a worthwhile investment. And then you would put in an offer, negotiate. And then when you have a confirmation of offer between both parties, then you can sign a contract of sale or what we call an asset purchase agreement. And so that's for businesses sub 500K range. For larger businesses, I would advise people to use an M&A advisor like myself, and I'll go out and find the business for you. I'll set up an acquisition criteria for you, and then I go out and find the business. I do the due diligence, I do the negotiations, and upload for you guys. Bring in lawyers and stuff like that if we need. So that's basically the process. I mean, that's the simple version. When you're doing it yourself, like when I first started, there's so much to learn, and you basically learn how to do due diligence if you're something small in the 500K range. and not using an advisor. But yeah, that's basically the process, I guess.
Yeah, and so for those, because I'm not quite familiar. What is an MMA advisor?
Yeah, M&A stands for mergers and acquisitions. So
Okay.
you can have a buy side, an M&A advisor, mergers and acquisitions advisor can be a buy side or a sell side. Basically, it's a broker. So I'm more so on the buy side. So people come to me with a little bit of capital. I help them get finance, and then I build out an acquisition criteria, and then I find the business for them. And then we do the due diligence on the business, and I advise them on like what, should we buy this? Should we not buy it? What to do? And I advise everybody through the whole process. On the sell side, you act as a broker. So say I've got a business for sale, I could go to a broker, M&A advisor, who would know a bunch of people that are looking for those types of businesses to buy, or they'd be able to market that business for sale. And that would help the person, myself, with the business to get all the information that's needed for due diligence to present to possible buyers and sellers, and then facilitate the transaction. So it's basically a facilitator and an advisor through the transaction of a purchase or an exit of a 7-figure plus 7, 8, 9-figure business.
Wow. Awesome, man. Yeah, this is really interesting to me. The reason why I came across your channel specifically, Jaryd, was, I've been real estate investing for about 4 to 5 years. And I know you're a property investor too, so you're kind of familiar with all the BS and the tenants and the headaches that come with it. And after kind of dealing with my fair share of some of the undesirable aspect of it, I started thinking about, okay, what are other ways I can invest? And I just saw your channel on YouTube, and I thought it was very interesting because we mentioned, like, I feel like people are very familiar with investing in the stock market, or people are very familiar with investing in the crypto market, or people are very familiar with investing in real estate. But I feel like no one talks about investing in online businesses. And I thought, I don't know, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I feel like if you can purchase the right one, it can be a very lucrative opportunity. So I'm just curious, why do you feel like the thought or investing in online businesses, why isn't that like not much of a conversation, or at least not spoken enough about?
I love that question, Ike. It's really good. And I would say, because when it comes to like making money online or getting an income online, most people, if you're an employee, will be like, all right, I want to see if I can get an online income, so get a job to work online, right? If you want to stay an employee. But I would say, because being America is probably the biggest market, and it's a very capitalistic market, right?
Yeah.
You guys really, I love working with Americans. You guys are such go-getters.
Yeah.
Because of that energy, that go-getter energy, it's like, if you don't want to be employee, typically it's like, what's the other option? What do most people talk about is like start a business, right? And most people are like, well, if I start a business, why don't I start one that I can like have location independence, right? So they like, let's start an online business. So most people that want to earn income online, that want to get out of their sort of like current job and replace their income, the only conversation that's really had is like, well, if you're going to do that, the default is just start an online business, right? That's what most people are expected to do. But nobody, very rare do people have the independent thinking of like, well, hang on a second, maybe I could buy myself an income. Maybe I could, instead of like trying to build something and I've got a 90% failure rate, so I've got to start 10 businesses on average to get one to work. I mean, it's not always the case, but when you're first starting out and you know nothing about business, like the failure is high because you know less. So the conversation just is not there. And most people don't realize that you can go away and acquire an online business. And what I'd say is like, it's same thing as real estate is, right? Is you're actually buying digital real estate. You're buying a place online that a location online that has some brand and some clout and trust with an audience that are going to transact with you. Yeah. So you think about it like in real estate is like, you have your digital real estate online and your tenants, if you got multiple ways of collecting money from tenants, so you have multiple tenants, the same as like an online business. You've got a whole bunch of tenants that are willing to transact with you for a certain product or service.
Okay. And so, can you like provide us with an example of an online business you purchased, and what was that like, and what was that experience,
Yeah, absolutely. I can provide you with two.
Okay. Yeah.
There's three main business models, which I'll explain first. It's three main business models. Is first one, if you got a media business, right? A media business can be a blog, a YouTube channel, a podcast. It can be a newsletter. It can be a Discord channel. It can be anything that produces media and earns income through or revenue through like affiliate links or advertising or, sort of selling their own sort of products. Then you have a e-commerce business. E-commerce business is just selling a product. It can be a physical product like on Amazon or Shopify, or it could be a digital product like a course business or whatever it is. Then you can have a membership, or what I would call a recurring revenue business. It can be a membership business like Audible, right? Or Netflix, where people pay to get access to a database of content.
Mhm.
Or it can be a software business where people will pay to get, like we could use Zoom or StreamYard or Google Drive. It's a software that people would use. So they're the three main types of business models: media business, e-commerce business, and recurring revenue business. The first one that I bought was a recurring revenue business. It was a website or a database of wholesalers and suppliers that people could pay to get access to contact them when they want to start their own drop shipping business. So they could find all these suppliers, right, to supply the product for their drop shipping business. That was the first business that I bought. The second business that I bought was an e-commerce business, and we sold suits, right? We sold tailor-made suits. So the market was mostly Australia that we sold the suits to, and they would go online and they would design the suit on the website. And then once they've paid it, they've designed it and they've paid for the product, that would then, I would have a tailor in Bangkok, in Thailand, print out the order form in Thai, and then go away and design that. And then they would send it out to the customer in Australia. And that's, the e-commerce business I bought. Another one I bought that was, we were selling hanging chairs and hammocks.
Wow.
We just sold hanging chairs and hammocks online. So that's three different types of businesses.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, like I don't know much about those businesses, but they sound very like boring but simple. But I feel like sometimes like the most boring businesses are probably the most profitable. In your case, was like the acquisition process, was it smooth? Did you have some unexpected costs? Like how easy was it for you, or difficult was it?
At the start, it was pretty difficult because I didn't have anybody helping me and I knew nothing about it, right? I was just learning this at the start. This is why I created the company that I have now, Buying Online Businesses, so people don't have to go through the same things that I went through and they can learn from my mistakes. And I literally have a course on how to buy a business and a framework for due diligence. So I literally have all the questions that they need to ask about each of the business models to get the information, and all the information they have helps them decide whether it's a good investment or not. They can also present that to us as well, and we can overview their due diligence and give them a review as a part of our product, give them a review to sort of share what risks there are, opportunities, and the next steps, right? We help them with like getting further information to sort of make decisions. So at the start, it was pretty difficult for me, and I just learnt as I went through. Yes, there was certain things that you need to like get information like about, like finances and product and distribution, all those sorts of things. Of course, there's going to be things that you need to know about, but it's also just really a couple of questions that you like. If you understand what questions you need to ask and you can get that information, then you can make a yes or no decision, right?
Wow.
Or make a decision to like negotiate. So that's what I'm about. I'm about helping people find out all the information they need to be able to make a decision, and a decision that's going to set them up in a great way or prevent them from taking too much risk.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of perks to this, and I think when it comes to online business investing, for me, one of the things that piqued my curiosity is because everything is online, I would imagine things happen much quicker or faster. I don't know. I'm just guessing. Because I guess for me, one of the things that ignores me with real estate is how long things can take. You know, if the sometimes, you know, you might look for a contractor and it could take weeks to get the contractor to come to your property, or if you have to evict a tenant, that could take a long time. And I don't know, maybe because I have ADHD or whatever, it takes a long time to get things done. I kind of get like, oh, we got to move fast, you know. So do you find that the case to be when with being online? Do you think things moving a lot faster, or things still take time? Or, you know?
It depends on the size of the acquisition. So the smaller businesses, say under 500K, you can move so much faster. Typically businesses under the 500K range, you don't really have lawyers getting involved, because that ends up costing a lot of money taken out of your capital towards a transaction. And typically you can just move things so much faster.
Wow.
And you don't have an advisor on either side. So yeah, people buy businesses within days, you know.
Wow.
And then when you start moving towards larger acquisitions, like 7, 8, and 9-figure acquisitions, it can be anywhere from like 1 month to a year and a half for like a 9-figure acquisition, maybe longer, where you've got finance coming from multiple sources. You've got lawyers on their side, lawyers on the other side. Then you've got agreements that you need to stick to. There's a lot of moving parts, but the smaller businesses, yes, you can move a lot faster. And you just the thing with real estate is that an online business is like online business. There's less to minimal. There's like no regulations. Real estate, you got like regulations. It's So yeah, online business does move faster, which is a risk, but also a massive reward as well, because you can get a lot of upside really fast.
Yeah. And so, you know, you mentioned the cost of, you know, you're saying like the online business is less than 500K, and then there's obviously bigger acquisitions, you know, and obviously, like, just like in any business, real estate or online, one of the hardest parts is actually having the capital to make that investment. You know, so if someone wants to test the waters or just see how this goes, you know, is there like a good way to introduce themselves into this into the world of online business investing? How would you go about it if you had to start again? Jaryd, you know.
Yeah, that's a good question. How would I go if I was to start again? Like anything, typically the smaller the investment, the more risk involved in online business, right? So because the smaller the business, the further it has to grow to surpass competition. And also the smaller business, the less money it makes, which means the more time you need to put in the business, and the less money it makes also means the less sort of like less working capital you have in the business, or less profit you have in the business to throw at problems or situations that might arise. So a smaller business typically has less risk, and a smaller business typically has, and this is very general, it's more risk, and a larger business typically has less risk, earns more money, and requires less time of the owner.
Okay.
So I understand that some people want to dabble. Sometimes people's like, I want to buy something for $10,000 to $20,000. Okay, cool. You can do that. But if you're going to buy something for, just say like 220K, right? If you go and buy a 200K business instead of a 20K business, that 200K business is 10 times bigger, which means it's 10 times less risky in general, and 10 times less work, but 10 times more income, which is highly attractive. So if I were to start again, personally, I'd be saving as much money as I could. Maybe I'd be investing in like mutual funds to get to a point where I can have maybe 50 to 100K, maybe up to 200K, where I can use that capital to go away and get financing with an SBA loan. I can't do this because I'm Australian and I'm an Australian resident, but for Americans, I'm sure most of your audience are Americans as well. Yeah. What my audience is as well is like, if you go away and you have like let's just say you've got 200K, you can go away and get like 2 million in finance, right? Up to like depends on the lender, but you go buy a $2 million business. That $2 million business is roughly going to be, say, it's an e-commerce business. It's going to be profiting around, say, $1 million a year profit, right? And you purchase that for like what, 200K. And so with this business, let's just say it's making let's stick with round figures. You have 200K and you buy a $1.8 million, or you put $1.8 million in financing into the deal. And then you've got 10% of, your financing costs 10%, right? Interest. So you've got a $1.8 million loan with 200K of your deposit into it. So it's a $2 million business that makes roughly $1 million a year in net profit. Then you have, from that net profit, you need to take off the finance that you need to pay. And say it's 10% on a $1.8 million loan, that's 180K. So let's just say it's 200K in financing costs per year. Then you have an 800K wage.
Wow.
Right. And say you're like, I really want to grow this thing. Like maybe you could go, I would like to, maybe contribute 300K to that, right? So you take 300K off the 800K and you got a 500K a year wage, right? Mm-hmm. And you grow the business at the same time, putting more money into it. Now that's a very like basic example. I'm not saying people that need to put a 10% deposit down on a business. Maybe you've got 200K and you buy $1 million business, mm-hmm. and you have less financial pressure on yourself. It really depends on who wants to acquire what. Maybe you have 50K and you want to buy a 500K business. Yeah. Maybe you have 100K and you just go, look, I'm just going to do this without financing and I buy a 100K business. The reality is that you're just going to be doing more work in the business to try and grow it and get it moving, and you'll have less capital to contribute to growth because you're not using finance. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. Is interesting, and it sounds like, from hearing you talk, there's so many different ways you can go about
there is
doing this, and I guess that's the nature of business, which is interesting. I guess just like in real estate and other businesses, there's creative financing, and it sounds like that's there's creative financing in online businesses too. What does the financing process look like? Because I'm only speaking from my experience, my limited experience of real estate, but I know, how like there's the 20% down typically, or unless you do the FHA, and that's 3.5% down. What does that look like typically in the online business world?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the acquisition, but like you can get an SBA loan with as little as like $30,000 sometimes, right? Typically your, like we call it in Australia, the loan to value ratio. So like be 10% down or 20% down. Normally the minimum is going to be 10%. At times for skilled investors that have already done this, they might be able to get down to as low as 5%. But I personally think it's better to put a little bit more into the deal. If you can play between the 10 to 20% deposit range, then it's a lot more comfortable. It's a lot more appetizing for the acquirer. And then, it depends. Like an SBA loan can be anywhere from 8 to 13%, maybe 14% interest rate.
Wow.
And normally it can be around 10%. But like using that example, like you've still got a lot of money left for the business to move forwards. And it depends. Like that's typically what it looks like. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, I know that's a simple breakdown of it. And I guess you said like typically it's around 10 to 20%. It sounds like for the most part, like the financing. Okay. Yeah. And then
ROI can be anywhere from like 25 to 50% ROI.
Wow.
From business, from the income. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, I don't really want to, the whole thing about passive income, that whole topic of passive income, as I've gotten older, I kind of get wary of it because I don't know. I feel like, at least there's really, for me, it feels like there's no such thing as passive income because I feel like it takes a lot of active work to make the business become passive. But that being said, once you do purchase the business, is it really a passive thing like stocks, or what does the management process look like? Do you have to, I'm sure you have employees that come with the business, right? Or whatnot. Like, how do you manage the business, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the smaller the business, typically the more work, like I said, you're going to be doing in the business, and the less employees get out because it's not going to be able to afford a big team, right?
Yeah.
So there's a difference between a business owner and a operator, right? Most people that are buying a small business they're going to be the owner and operator.
Okay.
Large businesses, you do just have owners that just sort of sit on the board and they just get quarterly or monthly updates, reports. So businesses under the 500K range, typically you're going to be acquiring them and they might have a couple of virtual assistants, right? They might have anywhere from like 1 to 5 virtual assistants that you can manage, that they can do the work for you, like part of the work for you, and or you're doing some of the work as well. As you get to a larger stage, or a business over the 500K, between 500 to 5 mil is like, above 500K and above a mil, really you're going to buy a business that has already a contractor, like a marketing team, and they might have a couple of virtual assistants and they're doing the work. And then you might check in with them, like depending on how active you want to be. At the start, I suggest people be quite active in the business and learn the business when they first acquire it, but you can scale it back to 5 hours a week if you really like, or 10 hours a week if you really like. So it's not completely passive, and I wouldn't suggest you be passive, own a business and be passive unless you had a CEO, like a CEO in place and you're just the owner. But, business playing, the 500K to 5 mil range is typically you're going to have an owner / CEO, right? They're going to be the CEO as well, and they're just going to manage people. So I would suggest, for 7-figure deals, people not get involved with the day-to-day. I would think it's better to hire the experts in, so you're not wasting your time learning non-evergreen tasks. Like, you don't need to learn marketing. If it's good to understand, but people, with 7-figure businesses shouldn't be doing the marketing when there's an expert that can pay to do it, that can get them a better result for cheaper than what they could do. They've got a whole career behind them on marketing and or customer service and or anything like that. So smaller the business, yes, the more time you'll be spent operating it. Yes, you can work from 5 to 40 hours a week in a small business. But as it starts to, the size increases, you should be taking time off your plate and should be spending time thinking and being a strategic thinker about, like, do I have the best employees? Do they have the best SOPs? Are they doing the best work, or can I replace them? Right? And then it becomes about, you don't have, one of my mentors says, if you don't have team, you don't have time. And with that time, you're buying team and talent, and you want to have the best, and you want to keep making sure you got the best, because they're the ones that are going to drive the business.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're really intentional about working on the business instead of like working in the business, because you want to optimize on your time and leverage, essentially.
Absolutely. And coming back to your finance piece, we talked about real estate investing, and I think real estate investing really dovetails quite nicely into acquiring an online business. So I've got clients that, maybe you've got a property or a property first, or maybe 2 or 3 properties, and you might have had them for a while, or maybe you've got your home and you had that for a while, but now you want to acquire online income. You can go away and take equity out. So we call it a HELOC in America, home equity line of credit, where you can take maybe 100K or 200K out, and then you can use that to get SBA financing to acquire an online income. So you can have your property portfolio already running, and then you can take some equity out of your property portfolio and acquire an online business. And or what I did the opposite way around was I built out an online business portfolio before I acquired property, and I took money off the table. And so I took my online income out of the businesses, and I used that for a deposit to acquire property investing. And now my property portfolio, as my property portfolio grows, I can now take cash out of my, I can take equity out of my property investments, my property portfolio, and roll that into acquiring an online business. So I can have the low risk asset of real estate and the higher risk asset, but more income with online business as well. And so it can sort of balance it out. And I call it the infinite loop of wealth, where you can take money from real estate and put it into acquiring online income. And then you can take that online income back into real estate to acquire more property too.
How fascinating, man. Wow. And I feel like the longer you're able to maintain those businesses, the more profitable. That's a really cool concept, man. And so I see you that over the long run, I can see that making a lot of money. And it sounds like you started off in the online business and then transitioned into real estate, right? For me, I've started off real estate. I haven't necessarily started online business, but it would be flip flop. But that's interesting to me because I feel like I would think most people would start off with some brick and mortar business. So yeah, man. This is really this is all new to me. I'm definitely planning on dibbling and dabbling more. For people who would like to perhaps I guess perhaps just learn more and do more with the information you're given. Like, where would you recommend? Like, what is there a book to read, or is there a channel to look out for? Is what's a good way to start and educate themselves?
Yeah, just type my name into any of the platforms. You can type my name into Google or YouTube, Jaryd Krause. So Jaryd, second name Krause, Krause. And I'm on YouTube. I've got a podcast. We were ranked in the top 2 best passive income podcasts online.
Oh no!
You check out the podcast, Buying Online Businesses podcast. Buyingonlinebusiness.com is a website. There's a bunch of free resources. I give out my due diligence framework. It's basically takes the guesswork out of buying a business, and it's free, so you can just get it, check it out. Or if you're want a larger, you want somebody to buy, you can finance something and you want somebody to buy a business for you and then help you scale it and grow it, then you can just reach out and contact me and we can have a chat.
Oh wow! And so, what does the due diligence process look like? Because I feel like that's probably one of the key things that you have to do, obviously, when looking out for any business. Because just like with real estate, I'm sure there's a lot of unprofitable online businesses that probably aren't worth the time. So how do you go about really finding out what's right for you and what's wrong? What's not really right.
So it depends on if you're buying a business yourself and you're not getting any help. There's typically, you first need to just look at 20 to 40 businesses to sort of see start to understand the market and see okay, this is a good one versus this is not a good one. Same with real estate. You got to go to a bunch to see, that sucks. Go to this other one, right? So you just kind of need to learn the market. But if you're going to use an advisor, you don't need to worry about that. Because an advisor's I know what your acquisition criteria is. I'm going to buy you the best business we can get for the money that you have. I've looked at thousands of businesses, maybe more, right? I've helped thousands and thousands of people acquire businesses. I know what's good like this and what's not good like this. So, because I've looked at so many, I don't know the market so well. But if you're starting out, then you need to learn the market. You need to look at a bunch first to sort of see, it's not worth my time. And then once you work out the ones that are worth your time, then you go away and you do due diligence. You can just use my due diligence framework that I give away for free. You can use that, and it's got all the questions you need to ask about the business to work out if it's a good investment or not. Or if I find one business that I know is right for my client, typically we're buying that business because I know it's going to be good before we even get into the weeds of the due diligence. And then once we start doing due diligence, and if say there's things that are a little bit of a risk, we can decrease the price. Or if it's too much of a risk, yes, we can walk away. But typically that doesn't happen because it's all work outable typically. But sometimes we walk away. I'm not going to buy something that's not going to give my client an amazing success story, right? That's how I build my brand, is help people absolutely crush it and make a ton of money.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. So, in because I guess for me, I just making the comparison between online and real estate because that's only my perspective. In real estate, we have the MLS, and I was also a real estate agent temporarily where I would go about purchasing, going through the MLS to scatter and look around and see what's out there in the market. What would be like an equivalent of looking through and seeing like or understanding the market, because you're talking about how important that is, understandably.
Yeah, so you've got marketplaces, right? Like MLS is, it's where people can list their real estate for sale, right? And it's the same with like online brokers, right? So you can call them website brokers, you could call them online business brokers. If you literally just type into Google website brokers or online business brokers, then there'll be a bunch that will pop up. But I'll list some for you. You've got Flipper.com, right? You've got Flipper.com. They're the largest marketplace for buying and selling businesses. Then you got Empire Flippers, you got Quiet Light Brokerage, you got Effie International, you've got investors.club, and you've also got motioninvest.com. So you can check out those. And, I've been interviewed by most of these brands on their podcasts, and they're all pretty good brokers, pretty reputable. So yeah, check them out. Or just Google. So it's just when you're sifting through listings of real estate, you can do that through businesses too. You can literally, and the cool thing is you can see how much they're selling the business for. You can see how much their profit is, and then how much their expenses are. Pretty much free public information. And then to get further details, you ask for due diligence. Sometimes the further details in real estate, you can have an expression of interest you might need to sign. Same online business, you might need to sign a letter of intent, which is basically an expression of interest. You can sign that, and they'll give you more information. Sometimes you might need to sign a non-disclosure agreement or a non-compete agreement. They're fine. It's just worth signing them to get the information to do it. Yeah.
So Jay, are you like a full-time investor? Or do you do this full-time? What does your lifestyle look like from doing all these online things? Are you just I'm just curious, are you just constantly looking for deals, or what? Yeah.
It sounds like I'm a full-time investor and I'm constantly looking for deals, right? And so it sounds like, I'm just looking at deals all day, every day, and investing for people and on myself. But I'm actually pretty lazy in terms of work, and whether you like that term or not, but my number one motivation in life is joy, enjoyment, having fun. And what I love to do is surf. So I typically work anywhere, depends. Sometimes I'll work 5 to 15 hours a week, right? So I manage a couple of emails. My inbox is managed by somebody. I have some team. And sometimes I have calls with investors that I'm buying businesses for or helping people buy businesses. I try not to do any more than 2 or 3 of those calls a week. Sometimes I just completely clear my schedule and I go on a strike mission and I go surfing, right? So
awesome.
I was away for a week in the jungle.
Awesome.
Jungle right by the ocean. I got back on Sunday and we went on a surf mission with a couple of friends. I live in Bali, Indonesia. And so throughout the year, I'll probably do 7 trips a year. And then I'll go backwards and forwards between Australia to see friends and family. And I don't work a whole lot, but when I do work, it's very effective. Obviously, this is not the product of I just started this a couple of years ago. I've been doing this for 12 years. I've been doing this for over a decade now. So it's been a long time coming, and I've just built this lifestyle over time. Was there times that I worked 80 hours a week? Yeah, of course. Right. Was there times that I, went travel, didn't do much? Yeah, of course. But it took me time to get here. And, the glory story is that, he works 5 to 15 hours a week. He makes a ton of money and helps people make a ton of money. That's great. But it took time to get there. And it's worth it. It's worth spending a decade to be able to get to a point that you can do that, I believe.
I
encourage people to do so. I encourage people to work super hard at the start, and just work it all out and invest and do it to a point that you can get to where you can start to scale back your hours and replace your hours with things that you love, sports and hanging out with people. And so my day to day is I'm always I'll normally have 1 or 2 meals a day with friends
Nice.
here in Bali, typically at least one. Surf most days, meditate.
Awesome.
I'm pretty chill, pretty cruisy. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're just talking, and like obviously from the perspective of the conversation, it could just literally sound like you're just searching for Joe's hot point. Like 40, 50 hours, and I'm like, and I'm in the back of my head, I'm thinking, like this is all good, but it's like, what's the point of doing this if if you're not really enjoying all the time? Or
I'm the opposite. Yeah, I agree. What's the point? Like, what's the point of doing it unless you? So my main motivation was like, I want to work out a way that I could travel the world. Do that was to make money online. And I'm like, this is another whole podcast in itself, but I'm kind of against traditional self-help and personal development. I've done it all. I've done like the morning routines, the rituals, the incantations, the affirmations, the gratitudes, the breath work. I've done all that stuff. And I've worked out that like there's just a few things that out of all those things, there's like 1 or 2 things that really work for each individual. And you work out what they are. And it's like the book Gary Keller, the one thing he talks about, there's like one thing that we should be like focusing on and doing. And I've worked that out, what that is in different parts of my life. For surfing, the one thing I want is just to get barreled, right? To get inside the tube. For like fitness and stuff, the one thing that I want to do is like anti-aging workouts, right? And I don't want to spend too much time on it. For work, the one thing I need to do is just buy businesses for people. And, to get all of that, there's one thing I need to do, which is meditate. And I don't need to make my life complicated.
Yeah.
I'm against like most people are chasing things.
Yeah.
And I was chasing things as well. So like personal development, self-help, most of it, the new agey stuff is about, it comes from a place of fear. And like when you want something, it's a fight. Right. And because you're trying to manifest this, people are trying to pull something into existence because of a place of lack and fear. Like so I like to help people move from chasing to attraction.
The being, yeah.
And that's what I like to do in business as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely resonate with everything you're saying deeply. I think there's a time and place for the self-improvement thing, probably when you're much younger. When I was younger in my 20s, I was really into it. But then after a while, there's only so much knowledge you can consume, and at the end you just gotta take action. You just gotta take action and take the risk. And I completely understand what you're saying, Jaryd, about after a while, I started getting annoyed with some of the courses and the books being offered.
And you're so right. Like it's people are motivated by fear, and so that's why that sort of marketing works. But most of it's a limiting belief, right? Like even our goal. Like imagine this statement, right? What if your biggest goal you could ever think of, was a limiting belief? Yeah. The truth is, it is. Because it's capped, right? We can only think up so much. So I would say so my dream was to just work 20 hours a week and earn $1,000 online, right? That was my goal, right? That was my highest goal that I could fathom, that I could believe that I could achieve when I was a plumber. And if I stopped there, I wouldn't know like this life that I'm living now, it wasn't a part of my consciousness and I couldn't keep it up, right? So that goal literally was a limiting belief. It was a glass ceiling that I didn't know existed. So I like the ideology of like thinking like we can only imagine and think up so much.
Yeah.
So why put so much pressure, and we can achieve so much more than we actually believe. And it sounds super woo-woo, but the reality is like a lot of the things that we can imagine and think up is a limiting belief, and the same with our personal development, self-help stuff. And it works to a certain extent. I think the self-help and the personal development things, it can work to help people that are undisciplined, like action. But if you're a disciplined person like yourself, Ike, and myself, like if you give us a task, that thing is consider it done. Consider it done. Sometimes when I'm starting out, it's like, what do I do? Like, we need a bit more motivation and stuff. And it serves the purpose for a certain period of time and a certain person. And then it becomes detrimental for people like us, where like we're doing all the things and we hit the burn, like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely love what you're preaching, what you're talking about, Jared. I think it's important, and as you speak, I'm reminded, like, that's why for me, I'm taking more pride in the man I'm becoming as a result of doing all these things, and focusing less on the extrinsic results. Because, for example, you mentioned you being a plumber, and because of the man you become now, you can think a lot bigger than working 20 hours and 1,000 and making 1,000 a month or over a week or whatever that goal was. And I think that's the true value, like the man that you become as a result of doing something consistently. And that's what I'm focusing more, whether it's consistently investing in stocks, consistently investing in real estate, consistently investing in doing this podcast. I feel like I'm becoming a better man from just doing stuff consistently. So, I mean, that's how I look at it. And I think more people should embrace that more than exactly like what's all the extrinsic stuff or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think we get to a certain point where I think it's an age thing as well, like where your ego just naturally settles down.
Yeah.
And it could be an age thing, but it could also be like life situations too, where you realize like, yeah, that house and the car is cool, but like what I get more fulfillment out of, like what I do is like, my thing is like, I'll just want to help people be more fulfilled and spend more time doing what they love with the people they love. Because I think that's if you've got more money, you can have more time to do the things that you love. And typically the things that you love to do are spending time with the people that you love. So like that's the real value.
That's the win. That's the win, man. Yeah, and I think it's about focusing on experiences more than materialistic stuff. But I think it also comes with age and wisdom. Yeah, because I'm kind of getting more to a point with that where I'm more intentional about traveling and doing things you love with people you love. Because I think once you spend time making so much money, at least for me, there's only so much fulfillment you get. But when you learn how to wisely invest that time into other stuff like your passions, your hobbies, and your loved ones, like that's where the real value and everything comes out. So, Jaryd, I really appreciate this conversation, and thank you for introducing me to the world of online business investing. If people would like to reach out to you or perhaps connect with you or learn more about online business investing, how can people do that?
Yeah, just go to my LinkedIn, Jaryd Krause, JARYD KRAUSE, and we can chat there.
Gotcha. Hey, well, thank you so much again for your time, Jaryd. And remember, everyone, the future belongs to those who believes in the beauty of their dreams. Thank you.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this conversation, feel free to write me a review on Apple or Spotify and subscribe for more content. I'm on a mission to inspire as many people as I can, and your reviews will help me reach a wider audience. Thank you.